Hey guys, my name is Ron Cecil. I'm a men's life coach. I'm here to talk to you about the most common ways you are fucking up your marriage and relationships. If you are here, it's because you're feeling the experience of pain and suffering and wonder about what's gonna happen in your relationship. Maybe you're on the verge of a divorce. Maybe you're on the other side of an infidelity, either from you or your partner. Maybe you are butted up right against what feels like the inevitable doom of the end of your relationship. And so you've gone to the internet looking for answers. I want to say, first of all, you're not alone. I've been there. I was divorced in my mid-20s for a lot of the reasons that I'm about to jump into. And now I've been married 14 years, the love of my life. We have 2 great kids together. And we talk as a married couple to our coaching clients about what I'm about to get into. So if you are here looking for answers, you're definitely gonna get some. And I wanna give you a heads up. You're not gonna like what you're about to hear. In fact, it's gonna make you pretty uncomfortable. If you could make it all the way through the 11 most common things that are fucking up your relationship, I'd say give yourself a big pat on the back. This is actually part 1 of a 12-part series that I'm gonna be doing, describing in detail the 11 things we do that counterintuitively fuck up our relationships. What I mean by counterintuitively is these are things that we do believing that if we do them, it's actually going to serve us and serve our relationship. But the more we engage in these activities, the more we harm ourselves and the more we harm our marriage or our relationship. In fact, if you grew up in a religious house, a lot of what I'm about to describe is gonna feel like an extension of your religious beliefs. It's gonna feel like these are the things that you were told to do in order to have a healthy marriage. So break out the pen and paper, get ready to take some notes, and dive in. It's not gonna be comfortable. You may not agree with everything I say. In fact, you may disagree. If you're in that position that I was describing before, where you're right on the verge of a divorce or wondering what the next big steps are for your relationship or marriage, and you know already that you need help, go ahead and click on the description below. Click the link where you can connect with me for an introductory coaching session. It's $60, and you can get ahead of all the things that you're dealing with already in your marriage and in your relationship and even your career. So let's jump into it. The number one thing that men do, thinking it's going to help their relationship or help their marriage, is they overgive. Men tend to overgive with their money, with their time, and their energy. You often think, if I want a healthy relationship, I need to be generous. And that's true, but generosity has a limit, especially when you believe that there's some kind of force to your generosity. In other words, you're looking to get something back. Dr. Robert Glover, in his book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, calls this a covert contract. In other words, if you are nice and generous with your time, your money, your energy, then you expect something in return. Often it's some kind of sexual thing that you're expecting from your wife that you've never said to her, but you expect it to happen. So an example of that might be you're gonna spend extravagantly on a date or on a trip or something like that, expecting sex in return, and you don't get it. So then you get resentful, and then you get angry, and you're wondering why your relationship isn't working. Another way of overgiving is in your time. You might be the kind of friend who is always the one who gets called when other people are going through problems. You love to answer those calls and be the person who has all the right answers. Some other examples of overgiving is overgiving with jewelry or gifts. Maybe not because you're expecting anything in return, but because you think that's enough. You think that's a good replacement for your time or your attention. Another example of overgiving is lending an ear when it's probably best for her to get a therapist or some better friends than you. You're not meant to be everything to your partner. I know that's probably counterintuitive. Another classic problem that men bring into their life that's destroying their relationship is they tend to think that they can fix people or situations. A lot of men who find themselves doing this have women in their lives that they see or saw early in their relationship as a project, that they see everything that's going on wrong in her life and think, I know what it takes to get things right. And so you tend to attract women whose lives are kind of frayed at the ends and can't hold a job, or they can't stay in other healthy relationships. And I mean even friendships. And so they look to you and you become the person who is the caretaker and the fixer of their life. So again, in the beginning of a relationship, it makes perfect sense that you would want to take care of somebody, that you would want to fix their problems. I think that's a natural thing that we'd want to do. We want to be generous. We want to help each other out. But over time, and given the wrong context, it's actually detrimental to your relationship. The next problem that we run into with men who think that they are doing their best to help the relationship is by seeking approval. I want you to think about this in your own life. How often are you asking your partner or your wife's opinion over what they think over a certain situation, over a meal, over your choice of where you want to go on a date, whatever it might be? You'll notice this in other parts of your relationship where around certain people you act one way, and then you get around people at work and you act a totally different way, and maybe around your family of origin you act in an even different way. That's a classic sign of people pleasing and needing to get their approval in your life. It works for a little while. It's a good band-aid, but over time, you forget who you are. I'm going to get to more about that in a little bit. And it does create a huge chasm in your relationship that over time will absolutely fail. Which leads me to the next part. When that fails, there will be fights, there will be disagreements, there will be conflict. And it begins to have this reciprocating effect where you seek approval, and in the approval seeking, it creates a divide, and in the division, there creates conflict. And then when you feel the conflict coming, you avoid the conflict and return to the people pleasing. If that's not a clear pattern in your life, I don't know what is. If you've ever been in any kind of people-pleasing situation in your life, maybe you've found it in church, maybe you grew up around codependents or people pleasers, you know this pattern, you know it very, very well. Which leads me to my next issue that men often get into, thinking it's gonna work and then it backfires, and that is hiding your perceived flaws. So we all have flaws, we're all normal people. There's no one walking around the earth that's perfect. And yet there's something in us that feels like we can't be acceptable just as we are. So we tend to bend the truth around things, or we begin to omit details around stories, and we only allow a certain side of ourselves to be seen, hiding our flaws, because we think if our flaws are noticed, if they're brought out into the open, then we're going to be rejected. And if we're rejected, then we're going to be alone. Now, you might be intuiting that this is connected to a deep fear of abandonment, and you would be right. All of this is connected to a fear of abandonment. And if you grew up in a home where maybe your dad left, or your dad was not present in your relationship, or there was such a high degree of perfectionism that was required on you, you were constantly walking around with this fear of abandonment. This ties right into it. And that leads to the next problem. The next problem is hiding your perceived flaws creates a need for things to be done right, for having a high level of perfectionism in your own life. You keep a house or a business or aspects to your relationship that if they're not exactly in the right order, you lose your shit. And at first, it's kind of charming. Maybe your sock drawer is done really well. Maybe you like the way that your cables are managed behind the TV. Those are totally acceptable, by the way. I want you to keep doing those things. But there's also ways of doing things within your relationship or your life that, again, create a chasm, right? Because if something is not done correctly, whether it's your wife or your children, whoever it might be, they feel separate from you. And in addition to that, if you aren't doing the things that you feel are the perfect things to do, you begin to feel separate from yourself. You hold yourself to a certain kind of judgment that you don't want to forgive yourself for. You can't see yourself as a regular person who is perfectly acceptable just as you are. And when you're not perfectly acceptable just as you are, you begin to repress your feelings. Now, this is a major problem with many adults in this time, in this age. What you might think I mean by repress is that you feel anger or you feel fear or excitement or something like that and you push it down. And to some extent, that's totally true. You will feel some of those things and feel like you're too above it, or you don't have time for it, or you're too mature, or you're not an emotional guy, or some other bullshit like that. But most often, the way the repression happens is subconscious. You don't actually know how to feel good. You don't know how to feel happy. You don't know how to feel sad. You don't know how to feel rage. You're literally disconnected from your feelings, and your emotions are repressed. They're unconscious. You're not making a choice to feel those things. And when you don't feel those things, when you feel disconnected from your emotions, you will use things like sex, like porn, drugs, alcohol, to feel happier, to feel higher highs, to feel lower lows, to aid in the assistance of being disconnected from your emotions. Often we get into a pattern early in our childhood where we see someone like our fathers acting a certain way. Maybe they mistreated our mom. Maybe they were gone all the time. Maybe they were absent. Maybe they were there, but they just didn't tell you they loved you. And at some point in your life, you think, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be the exact opposite of my dad. And so you go on this major quest to be the opposite. Well, here's something you gotta remember, and I want you to listen to what I'm about to tell you. The opposite of the North Pole is the fucking South Pole. They are both cold and desolate places. Being the opposite of your father isn't the goal. Being integrated and whole, taking the best of who your dad was, taking the best of who your mom was, and taking the best of who you are capable of being and combining that into daily actions and routines and habits is what you're aiming for. While I haven't been counting these things, the ninth issue that often we run into, or as a sure sign that our relationship is going south, is that men tend to relate to women better than men. So here's a test to see if that's you or not. Look at your life. Who do you feel most comfortable talking to and relating to? If there's any kind of fear of abandonment in your past, oftentimes it's women. Now there's layers to why that is. There's books written about this. I will get into detail for each of these things, but just notice that in your life. Now here's something I want you to remember about this. You become fully alive and fully a man, not in the company of women, no matter what they say, not in the company of your wife, but you do so in the company of other men. I've only made it through 9 things that we do that at the beginning make us feel like we're doing something right for our relationship, but then in the end actually wreck our relationship. But if you're already feeling like, man, I'm like 3 out of these things, that's enough to torpedo your relationship. You only need one, one of those left on its own, and it will absolutely sink your marriage. But if you're wondering, well, what do I do next? I'd highly encourage you to go to the description below, click on the link for a introductory coaching session. It's only $60. We'll have a full hour of talking about what you're going through in your life, and more importantly, about the steps that you need to put into your life now in order to get traction of healing and wholeness for your journey. And if that sounds hard to do, it's because you're dealing with the 10th item on my list, which is you have difficulty making your needs a priority. If that resonates with you, your life probably looks like something where it's easy for you to make appointments for your wife. You are able to encourage her to go take care of her needs. You're able to encourage her to go spend time with her girlfriends for the weekend. You know, you see everyone else's needs in your life, and you are actually quite capable of helping them see it too, and then take steps on achieving the necessary elements to get that need met in their life. And yet, when you think about yourself, you know, you look at your wardrobe and you're like, man, I haven't bought new clothes in years. I haven't been to the doctor in years. I haven't been to the dentist in years. Therapist, coach, holy shit. Here's the last thing, and I would say in some regards, the most detrimental. And that is to make your partner your emotional center. In other words, if they're happy, then you're happy. You don't have a clear and healthy division between their emotions and your emotions. If you are making your partner your emotional center and you're incapable of feeling a healthy separation, an integration on your own, and differentiation from her, this will ruin your relationship. Whether it ends in divorce or in misery, because it could be either of those, or a miserable divorce, know that over time, if you continue to stay in this emotional place where she is your emotional center, it will 100% fuck up your relationship. All right, guys, these are the 11 things that we get into thinking it's gonna be healthy for our relationship, thinking somehow this is gonna make my life and my marriage better, but over time actually fucks up our relationship and our life and our marriage. If any of this resonates with you, there's a few things you can do. Number one, leaving me a comment. Tell me what you agree with, what you disagree with. Number two, click on the Calendly link to get an introductory coaching session with me for $60. Number three, maybe you're ready to jump into something more. I have a men's group that I teach on Mondays at 5 p.m. Pacific time. I have limited space in there, but it's always opening up. Click on that link, maybe check out that website and see if that's something you'd want to do. Until then, guys, take care of yourself, love yourself, let go of resentment. Remember, you're doing the best you can with what you've got right now. So be gentle and be grace-filled for yourself and those around you. Grace and peace, everybody.